Brad, if you don't know who Brad is, he's built an awesome YouTube channel, great luxury listing tours, and has built a business on top of this whole video and social media thing. And Brad, I would say YouTube has been your jam. Like you've definitely crushed YouTube and a lot of the other ones too. But I do think that there's this idea that, in 2019, 2020, the YouTube thing kind of blew up for a lot of agents. A lot of agents did really well with their YouTube channels then. And now, if I'm an agent that's looking to invest more into video and take more time to try to build a platform on video, YouTube seems less sexy. It seems like it's not as cool as it used to be. So what's your take on the current state of YouTube and agents doing video content for that platform in today's market in 2025?
Hold that thought one second.
Yes, that is the thought. Josh Rogers, what's your thought?
I feel like Katie and Brad are pranking you, Tim.
Yeah, this is gotta be. I gotta be getting pranked right now. Brad, what's up? He's back. He's back.
No, so my apologies. Yes. Yeah, you know what? I would argue the opposite. I would argue that actually most people are looking to be on YouTube these days. Almost every like short form creator, almost everyone in any industry that has made a big Instagram following realizes that the conversions happen in longer form, and so they're growing their audiences or their channels over on YouTube. So the challenge is that you have to do anything long enough for it to be worthwhile, and that's the part that actually gets your game plan kind of like sidelined, right? Because you keep on thinking to yourself, like, I got to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. Meanwhile, there's all these other trends that are happening. And so I've always said this, YouTube has been in and out of fashion probably 5 or 6 times since I started doing YouTube. And just even in the last month, for example, we've seen all of our numbers jump up again, all of our interest in our channel jump up again, subscribers and viewers jump up again after 4 or 5 months of it going a little bit lower. But that's just the reality of this platform. And I think it's the platform that provides you the most leverage. So that's why I live here.
Well, you also mentioned the whole short form versus long form piece, because we have seen even TikTok, right? Our agents that are doing well on TikTok are doing well because they're getting people to watch an 8-minute video. And so talk to me about how you keep people's attention for longer form videos, because we know that's where the money is.
Yeah, so keeping people's attention, it's a little bit different on YouTube than everywhere else. Like there's still the same exact parts of I think all content, which is important, like the hook, the initial 5 to 7 seconds or so. The only difference is that on say short form video, once you've got them hooked, right, you might get them for another 10 to 12 seconds. But if you can sort of get those initial buy-ins in the first 5 to 7 seconds on YouTube, you get buy-in for maybe another 15 to 20 seconds. So you just have to, it's sort of like a ladder. You have to climb that first bit of attention and it doubles, right? And it sort of doubles at each bracket, right? So if you can get them to 10 seconds, then it gives you till 30 seconds to keep their attention. If you can get them to 30, it gets to a minute. And then once you get past a minute and a half or 2 minutes, it starts to be exciting because you'll find that about 60% of your viewers that made it that long will last as long as that video is, right? So like you will lose 50% of your audience in the first maybe 60 seconds, but the next 50% could take up to 8 minutes to leave. So it's a pretty cool thing. So we find that most of our videos have about 65% viewership at around the 45-second mark. And then at the end of the video, finish with about 40%. But that could be a 5-minute video. That could be a 10-minute video, a 15-minute video. So that's where I see a lot of the benefit come in, is that it's not really about the 10,000 views that lasted 45 seconds. It's about those, 3,000 views that lasted 7 minutes. In those 3,000 views, that's where the money is.
And I love that you said that, because I do. Like, I know when I edit, I'm constantly thinking about attention. So as I'm watching this video we're doing, I'm like, okay, I think I'm losing people here. I need to do something to keep the attention. And I think some of us probably watch a video, and when we're editing it, we're just thinking about the message that we're delivering, or we're just thinking about the information that we're saying, and we're not thinking about enough of how to keep people's attention, and like when to cut to some cool piece of B-roll, and when to change your tone so you can keep people's attention. How long did it take for you to make that happen? And now that you work with a Levy, how's that relationship work? Like, how often is he sending you something and you're sending it back?
Yeah, I find we do most of our research on Instagram stuff. So like on Instagram DMs, we're constantly just sending each other like ideas. We're like, hey, we saw this. This was a cool idea. This was something that we saw inside the real estate industry, or we saw someone do something kind of cool that we knew we could apply to the industry or put our own twist on it. So yeah, we're talking all the time on ideas and content. I think where we have sort of the most impact when you hire on any videographer is just having that videographer understand your style. So that first maybe 3 to 6 months that you're working with them, this is the time that those people are learning what you like, how quick you want your edits to be, how much energy you want, what vibe you're going for, what cuts you're going to be happy with, like even of yourself. And so during that period of time, it's usually a lot more work up front. It's like everything else in life. All the work comes up front, and then you get the benefits over and over now. So in the beginning, I would send him like 87 little minute points. I'm like, hey, at, the clip at 21 seconds, like up the saturation 3, drop the shadows 3, up the contrast 2. And I would do that like 87 times through it. Like, I don't like that cut. I don't like how I said that thing. I don't like that shot. I don't like the framing, whatever it was. And so I do that in the early days. And then now we're on the other side of it where he knows my style, what I like. We've worked together long enough that he'll send me a video file. And 9 times out of 10, I don't even have a single edit because we're just on the same page now. But it's the work up front, right? To get there.
Well, the thing that makes me think about is how many of us work with a videographer and we get a video back that's their style, not ours. Right. And I think that's where you'll see a lot in local markets where the same 1 or 2 videographers are shooting all the listing videos. All the listing videos look the same. And so I do think you may not be like at Brad's level where he's sending back saturation and contrast adjustments. But on the same hand, like if Mike's making a listing video, Mike's got to know what his style of video is. Like what kind of energy does he want on his videos? And then getting that videographer to do things more your style, as opposed to just like shipping it out and getting whatever they give you back. And for me, you have to be able to do that to stand out in a market, or else you just kind of look like everybody else's stuff.
It's kind of cool about what's working right now is you see some of the agents, almost all of the agents that are experiencing like some cool growth or a little bit of like virality are agents that have came up with a fresh idea to something, right? It doesn't even have to be brilliant, but it could be like a reel that's literally, it's just all locked off shots, which basically means there's no camera movement whatsoever. And maybe it's just the realtor that moves, and maybe it's just it feels smaller, but it feels almost more intimate, right? And then some are really winning because of the rawness of it, where it feels like, man, it's just like it's almost handheld and you're just following along on this scene, right? And I have always from day one been a fan of Ryan Serhant when he first started. Like I didn't know him in the his selling whatever that show he was on. Anyways, I didn't know him during our $1 million listings. I think that's what
Yeah,
it
I think
was.
that was one.
I didn't watch him on that, but I did watch his vlog. And if you've watched the evolution of Ryan, like in the last 3 months, his content's all changed again. Right now, it's like an assistant coming in and saying like, "Hey Ryan, like I saw these tweets or whatever," or like handing Ryan something and putting something in his hand while he's in the middle of a speech or something, right?
Yeah.
And so always something a little bit different. So they're always kind of testing and seeing what works and why the audience should stick around. And it's like a good reminder to everyone that it's like if what you're doing isn't working, like you have either A, not done it long enough, or B, you should just keep testing new ideas and see which is the thing that feels like it would work for you. Like these days, my interest is much more along the lines of what if I was to make my cadence like my absolute priority. right? Like a certain amount of posts on short form per week, and say one YouTube video per week. Like, what would need to be true for me to keep that schedule? And that might mean that some of the longer form videos have to be shorter, right? Like a 7-minute video, when you edit pretty heavily throughout the video, not just the intro, taking away, say, 2.5 minutes is literally taking away 33% of the work. So it starts to become like, okay, what are those things that we need to make happen to be true in order for us to hit a schedule that we want to hit? And so we start to kind of reverse engineer it from there.
So one thing, it sounds like a lot of work. Sounds like a lot of work to constantly be coming up with the different ideas and changing your style and doing those things. But I do think we know that there is an unfair advantage to people that are willing to do it. And, more and more we see the top 5% of creators getting all of the results. But it does take that constant tweaking of the game to innovate. The checkbox marketing of just doing the listing video, the checkbox marketing of just doing the just sold gets less and less of a return. So, Brad, how do you see others staying consistent on being creative? Because I don't know about you, like I get creative burnout. I'm like, oh God, I can't come up with some cool idea today. Like, what do you do to stop that from happening or at least try to help?
Yeah, I mean, I think creativity and inspiration it's super overrated, right? And it's why, if anything, what you need is a basic format of something that you do kind of on a regular basis, right? Like if you look at Katie with like Houston Unlocked, or you look at Ken with the Orlando Reel, and you look at you look at some of these guys that just do like a simple house tour where it's literally one cut, it's them kind of explaining what they're seeing. It's on a GoPro, right? Or an iPhone gimbal. It doesn't really matter what that stuff is. If you have a format, then it takes away a lot of that creative exhaustion, right? Because the exhaustion is just like, oh, what are we doing this week? Well, it's like, no, I know that for every one of my videos, there's a few segments, right? There's that intro, right? Then there is the like what's in it for the viewer. Then there's the community, the main floor, the second floor, the basement, the lower level, and then maybe the yard and the outro. And so all I know is I'm like, hey,
did you guys hear how Brad just breezed over his listing video framework that has made him into the top luxury agent in Calgary? He just like nonchalantly can we go back to that real quick? How do you break down a listing video?
So the way I think of the first 5 to 7 seconds, it just has to be something that captures their excitement. Like it can be hooky or interesting. It could be a bold statement, whatever it might be. It just has to sort of tease what the property has to have. So like we just sold a place that, it's like non-typical. Like the garage looks like it's separated from the rest of the house. It's just
The
like,
what?
it's atypical.
No,
No,
what room?
Garage.
Garage. I don't know how you guys say it. The place for the cars is separated from the house, the main house, but it's actually connected by an underground tunnel, right underneath the backyard. Now, like that's the thing you got to lead with, have someone find interest in that, right? So they pique their interest about like a home with a secret underground tunnel, right? Like you could say that it goes to the garage, but it's almost better to not, right? Just to have people be like, what is this thing for, right? Like, why does this super modern luxury home look like it have a bunker? Like, what is this for? And so what I like about stuff like that is that, okay, now we got their interest for the next, 7 to 9 seconds. And now we get 15 or 20 seconds of where we're going to, or we get maybe 5 seconds right after our hook of just teaser shots. So this is just where it just looks good. You're like, okay, it's going to be a great kitchen. Ooh, I saw a flash of an ensuite that looks really beautiful. Like this is going to be worth sticking around for the tour. So I get like a little taste of what's coming up. That's our first 2 steps. Then
So back to the hook. Are you coming up with these all on your own, or are you using chat, or what are you doing on the creative process on that front?
Yeah, so I would say if I have a strength, it's either on the storytelling side or like a storytelling hook. Like I'd say that's probably where I'm best at that. It's like looking at a place and saying, oh, okay, this is the story or this is the hook. But yeah, you can use ChatGPT if you want to get like some basic stuff, like give me like 10 bold statements. The thing with ChatGPT is you just got to be super specific, right? Like I'm in the community of Bridgeland in Calgary, inner city Northwest. This is a $2 million home. It's $800,000 more than the average single family home in this area. It's luxury because it's got 3 stories. It's got a, like, you just talk to it for 2 minutes and then you say, give me 10 to 12 hooks that I can use off of these and rank them based on your strength, what you find is interesting. Usually what you find in there is something that's workable. Like, so you can just kind of keep the conversation or like keep the shoot going. But what I usually find if I do use ChatGPT is it's like the foundation of an idea or like something that like, ooh, yeah, that would actually work once, but with this other concept I had. And so I think that's how I kind of work on my hooks. But to be quite honest, like sometimes you'll get a result back from ChatGPT. If they have the context and you've shared enough with them, it's incredibly strong what they'll give you back. I would just say just don't lean on it too heavily. Just use it as a way to get started, right?
So we've got the good hook and then we've got the highlight, right? So you give them a hook, you give them a highlight. Visually, you're showing.
We're 12 seconds in at this point, right? So this is also now, just keep in mind, this is an Instagram reel too, right? Or a carousel post. So this is multi-platform at this point. Now, but at that point in time, now, like you've teased them for 15 seconds. Now you've got to actually get them to know a little bit about the property, right? So what I'll usually
you got to start to deliver, right? A hook, this other thing. Now you got to actually start to deliver on what you hooked them on.
Exactly. So this is where you can start to be on camera and elaborate. Hey, like guys, I'm standing on the main floor of an ultra modern home, one of my favorite places that I've toured this year. And it's got so many features that we can't wait to show you. But before we take you through the home, you got to know where this home is because it's located just north of the Bow River with incredible views of downtown, right? So you say that, right? And now all of a sudden you're just out in the community for 5 to 15 seconds. Like this could almost on its own be another second reel if you wanted it to be. And that 5 to 10 seconds is a really valuable part because it's just like a pattern interrupt. They were in the house. Now, okay, now we're outside. There's the river. Oh, that would be really kind of cool. And then if you just give them the facts, you're going to miss an opportunity to build your own personal brand, have people get to know you and all that stuff. But the thing that we fall into is this is when we want to tell people our name or who we are or how great we are, or this is the opportunity to actually be like, I actually come here all the time because there's like an ice cream shop around the corner and I never tell my wife about it.
There's the truth.
Kill me. Right. Exactly. So you share that little thing and it's like just such an amazing walkable area. So like after a run, if you want to destroy your diet, just hit that little ice cream shop on the corner. It's great. Right. So you share that little piece and people will laugh about it. Or in the comment section, you would be shocked. Like so many people will be just like, oh my God, I love, like their rum raisin or something like that. There'll be some little piece there that they felt like you gave them a little bit of who you are without making it about yourself, right? It made it relatable to them. And then you're back in the house and now you're like, okay, this is what you're going to see in this video. And this is where we give them like the 500-foot view of the house where it's like, we've got 3,200 square feet developed, a triple car garage. It's attached through a secret tunnel and it's got a stunning ensuite and a kitchen. We're going to start right here on this main floor. And then we spend 30 to 45 seconds per floor. And our goal these days is to take our 7 to 9 minute tours and make them 5 to 7, our 5 to 7 minute tours and shrink them down to 3.5 to 5 minutes. And that's purely not necessarily because people won't watch a longer tour, but because people like ultimately we think we can deliver the same amount of value in a shorter period of time. And it's actually harder for me to shrink how much I'm saying. So we'll do like a minute tour on the main floor and Levy's like, okay, cool. Now do it in 30 seconds. And I'll never get down to 30, but I'll get down to 40 seconds. And that just cut a third of his work off. So
I love it. So a couple things. One, I did want to hit on your gave a little bit about who you are without making it about yourself. That balance is really important. I think that's one of the things that you've probably done well. That's led to a lot of success. The other part is we're at 23 minutes. We do have to take our sponsor break, which today is Katie and her attire change. So if you notice, Katie went off camera. She ran back to her house to go get her Brad shirts. And so we aren't selling these currently, the Brad button down shirts. But if you'd like one, let us know, and maybe if we get enough interest, we can get an order together. So yes, that's Katie Day.
Any interest whatsoever. That no, don't take two.
That's the McCallum Ponders shirt. Ponders.
It's actually his fault for making this his headshot for quite some time.
I did. I got to add in this little beard thing.
Please don't. Yeah. Actually, please don't.
No, listen. If we took a vote, I think most people would say the beard works. Everyone knows this. Every aging guy knows this. You get to a certain age, and you look like a thumb that someone drew a face on. You know what I mean? Like it looks like a thumb sticking out.
But see, I see Courtney and Ray both shaking their heads yes. Just like, we got full facial hair on his entire face.
God,
right?
Courtney.
Let's see. We got full facial hair on his entire face.
Yeah, the full. But that's because I have a super round head, so I got to elongate it.
But see, and then you got this.
It's pretty bad.
Well, why don't we pull up Mike? Look at Mike. Mike's looking great.
Like, why is there so much chin involved with your facial hair?
Because this is the thing. Without this, there's almost no chin involved in my face.
Well, there's multiple chins then.
All right. Listen, one thing that you hit on is
a high value meeting today, guys.
Yes, high value. We got to break it up
right now, or making a video.
I noticed that you didn't show Noel's facial hair.
Damn, Ray.
Yeah, Ray's choosing violence today.
Wow.
That's so good.
So back to me attempting to make a point. You mentioned that you shouldn't lean on ChatGPT too much. And one of the things that I've found with my favorite creators, like Chris Benjamin, which is texting Katie and I because he's going to be on next week. There's an obsession with the audience, and there's a knowing of the audience. Like when ChatGPT does give you the idea, you're like, oh, my audience is going to eat this up. My audience would love this. And what I worry about is that when we lean on, it's like, how do I know my audience? Well, I'll ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like you can't outsource knowing your audience. You can't outsource knowing what your people need. Like you can't outsource that stuff. And in this life where we want to just, lean on AI too much for things, I feel like we're leaning on it for some of the more important things that we need to be doing.
Yeah, I would argue that it is the easiest thing on earth to fall back to what we believe is good content, what we believe we want people to know. And the challenge is that every time I've stepped away from what the audience wanted, it just, unfortunately, it's a tell, right? It's kind of like breaking. It's like if you're watching a movie and they all of a sudden break the fourth wall, you're like, oh, I'm out of the moment. I'm watching a movie. These are actors. This isn't a real scene, right? So the second you make a piece of content that is about you instead of serving them, you're breaking the fourth wall. You're telling them right now, oh, by the way, all that you've seen here is a charade. This is about me, and it's all about me. And so I think even for us, one of our biggest challenges here in the coming weeks with my YouTube channel is we are actually dividing our YouTube channels to a McCallum Group channel and one for Brad McCallum Calgary Real Estate. And the Brad McCallum Calgary Real Estate channel is going to solely be evergreen Calgary content and really high-end luxury tours with architecture that I find really exciting here in Calgary. And that's it. And if that means that it's a once or twice a month cadence on those videos, but they are bangers, then I'm good for that. And then all of the property tours that don't really serve that audience that signed up for our Moving to Calgary video, for our market updates, for our luxury tours, they can be served over at McCallum Group YouTube channel. And the reality is because we got to this point where what got me here is not going to get me there. And in the early days, when I was creating and filming all my own content and uploading it, there was this honor in creating a YouTube video or video marketing piece with the same care for a $4 million home as we would for a $400,000 townhome. And the reality is that the more you dilute your audience, the less value everyone in that audience feels. And so even though I thought I was doing this really honorable thing, the lesson I was learning was actually that I was making it less valuable for everyone else. So I needed to find a way to sort of separate those audiences if we wanted to continue to grow. And so that's the point that we're at right now, is making sure that the content that we're putting out on our main channel is strictly for that ideal viewer, where we're really presenting something that's elevated. And then our McCallum Group channel, it'll still be great content, but it's going to be the kind of content that if we absolutely need to, we're more than happy to promote those videos with dollars. But I don't want to do that on our main channel.
So tactically, because I think that like a lot of people go through this because YouTube becomes like a dumping ground for video, and then you turn around and like your channel isn't today what it was when you first started, kind of thing, right? Are you going to keep your same channel and just that be your channel and make a new one for McCallum Group? Or are you keeping the one that's currently now your team channel and you're making your new one yours and you're going to build a whole new audience?
No, I think the new channel is going to strictly be for those listings that are anything but exceptional. So, and those are videos that I might not have to even be in, right? So it could
new channel property tours, and you also may run ads on them.
Yeah.
And here's the piece though that is interesting to me about this evolution of the journey. You built a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel is an asset for your sellers because of how many eyeballs are on it and because of how many people reach out to your channel. Like, it's an asset to your clients, and it's an asset to the agents on your team because they're generating business from it. And that's what's driving the ship. And I think what happens is, like, does serving a client actually start to hurt the asset that the business is based on? And I know, like, Josh has his channel with all these different views and all this other stuff, and his client raises his hand and says, hey, can you put my listing on that news channel you have? And now Josh has to look at it and say, okay, like, do I serve the client but hurt the thing that drives the business, and where's the balance there? And it's such an interesting crossroads to be at, because you feel like maybe you're not serving your client, but on the same hand, you have to protect the asset that's helping your client in the long run. What are your thoughts? I know this is the exercise you kind of just went through.
Yeah, no, it's like the old scripture, right? You can't serve two masters. And this is the exact same thing with, you can't serve two audiences at once. Like, it's a principle that if your client says like, oh, I really want to be on that channel and I'll pay for it. It's like, it's kind of like YouTube does this with paid advertising. The quality of the content that you're trying to promote, the quality of that ad, the user experience for even a paid ad costs less than it does to promote an ad that is poorly shot. Like, YouTube just says, hey, like, this could ruin a user's experience or cause them to leave the platform. If you want us to promote this, it's going to cost you a lot more. That's why, like, having quality and storytelling and good content, it helps you whether or not you're doing organic or paid advertising, right? And that's one of the big benefits of it. So for me, it's like, we have made that mistake. In the beginning, I had thought it was about something that was honorable to our clients. Like, if you list with us, we're going to give you placement and access to this ad. But as we've grown, we've realized, like, look, it no longer serves them, right? Like, because if it goes onto our channel and kills viewership or kills reach, right, it's way worse. And it's like a piece of the land, or it might be, and we're going through this with Instagram as well, where we are just beginning a McCallum Group Instagram page. And we're doing the exact same thing there, because, like, for me, like, last week I posted like a land video with Jeff on my team, or the week prior with Caitlin. Now, I wasn't in either one of those videos, and some of you probably follow me on Instagram, right? And you're like, well, okay, this is not who I signed up for. And those videos never quite perform as well. So we're making a McCallum Group page, because it doesn't make sense for me to invest in a videographer and have them just post it on their own pages. I still want to own the asset. And so if I have the McCallum Group page, they can co-collaborate with the McCallum Group on that Instagram post. But then for me, if it's content that I'm doing that's also for the McCallum Group, I can collab with that as well. And so I'm always trying to find out, like, what is the asset that I can own at the end of this, right? And the asset's always going to be the audience. And so the value of that audience is that's the only thing. It's the video is not the asset. It's the audience.
The
Well, I
content
think-
always has to serve the audience.
I mean, and I think that I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because I love the thought process behind this, but I feel like there's an agent on here that's like just starting a team, and they're like, okay, well, I'm going to start my 17 different YouTube and Instagram and all of these different pages. And like, this came out of like years and years of content creation and building the team. Cause like in the beginning, it was just you, right? And like, so can you speak to that a little bit on like the evolution that it took to get to this point? Because again, like, I feel like there's a lot of people that might hear what you're saying and go start multiple pages for their property tours and their this and their that and their whatever, and then they just dilute their content so much to the fact that, like, to the point that
you're totally right,
they're not building an audience.
You're totally right, because this was an evolution to get to this point, and it's an evolution to solve a very unique problem. When you have a large enough audience that's super diluted, right? So in the early days, for sure, it's like you either have so much business that you don't have time to create content, or you've got a lot of time because you don't have a lot of clients. So then what you actually have is this asset to learn how to create some basic content, right? So that basic bit of content that you're maybe shooting and editing yourself, or that deal you make with the videographer to do a certain amount of content for you in a month, it is not enough to serve anything more than one Instagram page and maybe one YouTube channel. And so you should be focused on that one thing. The mistake is to think that you can pull in people from all these different audiences. Like, if I was to start my YouTube channel again today with someone else who's just getting started, I wouldn't dilute it by doing a market update once a year, and then 3 luxury listings, and then a few townhomes. I would pick an audience that I was going to serve, and then I would serve them. And I would just be thinking, before I made every piece of video, like, who is the audience that I'm serving? And then what is the thing that they are most concerned with right now? And the thing is that at any point in time, I think all of us have a much larger list of ideas of content that we want to create, but we have to say, what is the necessary piece right now? And so if you make that, and that's your focus in your early days, you don't want to go and start another YouTube channel on a different topic, or another one on like, you just can't be all things to everyone. Like, there are people in all these influencers markets that still have no idea who they are. Like, I know a lot of great agents in Orlando that do tons of business, and they're not losing their business to Ken. You know, it's because everyone's going to find their own audience and people. But the problem is that if you don't keep serving the same audience long enough for them to know that there's value for them there, like, that's why there's so much opportunity right now for people who are hyper specific. That's why you could grow as fast as you did, Katie, with Houston Unlocked, right? Because you were super consistent, and it was super relevant to people who were looking for that type of information. That's why Josh is having the success that he's having too. That's why so many people are blowing up recently, is because they have a very specific group or platform or people that they're trying to serve. In the early days, you actually have to go, I think, a little bit narrower on sort of like the style of videos. Pick like that one approach and do it long enough to have an opportunity to see if it works. And there's no reason to think that you need to come up with something creative or different to do so. The creativity and the part that makes it different is your ability to sort of share who you are along the way while you take that approach. That's why everyone has a slightly different version of a property tour, of a market update, of all that stuff. It's the ones that do something slightly different that actually seem to break through.
Well, I'd like to know your take, because I think the consistency part is important, where, you know, I think we try 4 local news videos and they don't take off, so we jump to the next thing. We try 3 listing tour style videos and they don't take off, so we go jump to the next thing. Like, how long do you think somebody needs to put into something to say, hey, like, I've tried this and done it? And where do you think people miss when they're trying something new?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in reality, every video you release is like a little lottery ticket. And so the mistake would be to think that if you won the lotto, right, that you're done, or that, that was the actual pace, like where you might get a client off of your third video or your first video or your fifth video. But that's not the goal. Like the return could be anywhere from 6 to 18 months, right? Like that could literally be the return. But the mistake is to think of it as a commission. The return is a brand. Like that's the actual return. And so what that means is that for the rest of your life, you will enjoy leverage. You'll just enjoy leverage in your business, because as this resume of videos grows and as that audience begins to grow and are served and see value in you and enjoy your perspective and your point of view, as that grows over time, those opportunities and those conversations begin to start online and then translate into your business, and they start to come in at one or two. And if you cut the finish line and said, like, I did it for a year and a half and I've only done 3 deals out of it, like you are literally like it's like 4 a.m. and the sun's coming up in an hour, and you're like, but it's never been so dark. And that's the problem, right? Is that you always miss out on that part of it where it's like the 3 quickly become 6 deals. The 6 deals start to be something that you can depend on. Like the wildest part about the building of a personal brand is how dependable and repeatable the leads become. Like you start to see a conversation, you start to get 2 or 3 per week, and then you can get 5 or 6 per week, and it'll slow down to 1 or 2, but you're always going to gain something from it. So the question is just like, if you are leaving real estate in the next 2 years, then you should probably definitely not start YouTube, right? You should door knock, you should do mailers, you should do postcards, you should do whatever you can to get in front of people and start as many conversations as possible, because it is a little bit of a longer game. But if you're planning on being in real estate like 3, 4, 5+ years, then I think you'd be crazy to not start building something that is building your brand. And that's where YouTube has the value of, because it takes away all those other daily activities that you need to do while you're building YouTube or while you're new in the business. Like all the prospecting, it leaves. Like if you post twice a week and you've got a great audience that really likes you, you are touching that audience 100 times a year. Like that audience is seeing it and engaging it. And then if you're posting stories a couple of times a day, that audience is likely engaging with that side of you as well. And so you are getting so much more value than sending out, 25 emails every 2 weeks in a year, because of the open rate and all of that stuff. So I think the return is definitely a little bit slower. It's kind of like everything when you first get started in this business. But once it starts to come in, it just feels like you've got this army. You've got a team of people prospecting for you, right, on all these different platforms.
All right. So talking a little bit about conversion, Misha actually put a question in the chat a little bit ago. It was actually when you first started talking, and then 12 minutes later.
Oh yeah, and 12 minutes later.
Yeah. No, but talking about lead conversion and kind of moving people along. Like I know in the beginning with videos, it was just like you kind of did the videos and people would call and want to buy those houses, and it worked out really well for you. Over the years, have you guys done any like specific lead magnets to kind of have that middle of funnel stuff as far as any guides or anything like that?
So we've never done any any buyer guides or seller guides. We will do, like, we used ManyChat this last year and a half just to like a prompt on something that's sort of newsworthy, or something like, hey, like, we created a video for our market update, like hit us this if you want to know what the state of the market is and what our biggest fear is, say, coming into the third quarter. Like we'll do something like that as a bit of a lead nurture, but I find that the nurture part, like everything in YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, all of that is to get you to the first conversation. So it's a mistake to think that that becomes like your lead nurture, or even like a buyer's guide or a seller's guide is part of that nurture. Like in reality, if you can find some way to start that first conversation, it might be the result of a buyer's guide or a seller's guide or some sort of lead magnet. But still, once you have that first conversation, you got to be great at follow up. Like it's not going to go well for you otherwise.
Yeah, for sure.
What do leads coming in from YouTube look like for you guys? Tell me about what your first YouTube leads coming in looked like the first couple of years, and then talk to me about the process that you have now.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of years, I found like there was definitely a lot less competition, right? Like there was just less agents doing video, right? So it definitely really stood out. But what was interesting is in the beginning, it stood out because there was less agents doing it. And now, which is probably less relatable for the audience, is now because we've built such a large audience over time, now that audience is also part of the value proposition, not just the video marketing, but the fact that we have an audience to expose it to on our channel, right? So in the early days when it would come in, it was just all the stuff that I didn't have to say out loud that people felt like they would see a video on a really nice home in their community and they would say to themselves, I would like that kind of marketing for my house. And so they would just reach out and they'd say like, hey, do you do videos on everything? It was like the warmest way and easiest way for me to talk to my sphere of influence without ever asking if any of my friends or family wanted to buy or sell a home with me. And that was one of the things that I think it unlocks a new level of like confidence, like with your family and friends, because they see you out working, they see what you're doing, and they ask you about it. And it's like, as soon as it's like when that friend that, gets into some like makeup pyramid scheme or something calls you up and wants to like host a party at your house or, get together, you're like, oh my gosh, like my wife's like, oh, she
Brad,
just,
I
maybe
He
still think
called you in confidence. Tim
Yeah,
called you in
one,
confidence,
I expect you
Brad.
to put me on blast like that. I think you could do well in the makeup industry, and we should go into business together.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I've been wearing foundation and a little eyeshadow for years now. No, but those are the things that I wanted in those early days, was the conversations where it was just like, okay, I'm really curious about, what this home, like, what the value of my home is. And to me, the way I've said this too many times, but basically, like, if my phone wasn't ringing, I went and worked on my brand. I didn't hit the phones. Because as soon as you get that first phone call from Instagram or YouTube where people say, hey, I've been watching you for a while now, as soon as you get that call, you realize like, oh my gosh, whatever it was that built to that moment, like it would have taken me 200-300 door knocks and cold calls to try to get someone who was willing to meet with me or talk to me, right? Or get a few people to raise their hand. But whatever I did, they reached out to me and wanted to know what the value of their home was or what it would look like to work with us. And so we just kept on doing that same thing. Even when we saw other trendier platforms come up, we just kept doing the thing that got the calls coming in. Now, the way it looks is like we recently just got to work with a builder who it was my very first $1 million listing. We filmed a home for him totally for free. I just wanted to do it on my YouTube channel in like 2019. And he called us up a couple of years ago to film his own personal home. Then he called us up this spring and said, listen, we've worked with plenty of realtors, but we've never worked with you. And of all the realtors we've worked with, the guy we've never worked with is the one who's provided more value for our company. And so they called us up and gave us a $5 million listing. Now his sister, he wants me to go meet with his sister, he's got a $12 million listing. Now other builders in the city are calling us up saying like, okay, now this is a 6-year nurture, right? But the nurture wasn't me reaching out to them saying, hey, would you like to continue to work with us? The nurture was us kept showing up online, kept showing up on YouTube, kept delivering on what we did. They watched that from afar and realized like this wasn't just a marketing play. This is a brand. This is value. And they got to experience it themselves. And then other builders right now, especially in a shifting market, like this is where our team will really crush. Now, it might not mean that our sales jump 40 or 50% this year or anything crazy like that. But what it means is that while everyone else drops 30 or 40% and we stay level or gain 5 or 10%, we're gaining market share. And this is at a time when our business really grows, because this is when builders and luxury homeowners and where properties are sitting a little bit longer, this is where they're looking for someone who can help solve their problem. of like, how do we get more eyeballs? How do we get more people through the door? How do we learn about this? The only difference is in 2019, we had to sell this idea with 80 subscribers. Now we get to do it with over 50,000, right? And the cool thing is that it works just as well with 80 subscribers. They want to know your level of investment. And the cool thing is that you these days, I mean, between shooting 4K 60 on your phone with a DJI gimbal, like $130 gimbal, like the cost of entry to create high quality, super dynamic 4K steady footage with good mics and good audio, it's so like the bar is so low, that it's still that the bar is so low for quality and know-how even, but it's still so high because you have to do it. It's still
So I love I wrote it down that the things I didn't have to say out loud, but the audience felt. We've talked about some great hooks and some great CTAs and some awesome hand raisers. I think all that stuff is great, but the holy grail is just making content that builds trust within that content itself, where you don't need a CTA, you don't need a hand raiser, you don't need some catchy Instagram story. People are just going to reach out to you because you've built so much trust through that content. And so that's like the foundational piece I would look at. I love talking about CTAs and lead magnets and all this other stuff. But what if you went back to that original question, which is how can Mike make his content so good and it builds so much trust with the audience that he doesn't even need a lead magnet. He doesn't even need a CTA. He doesn't need some great, hook at the end to get people to call him. It's just that that good. And I think that's what your listing videos did. You just made listing videos that people wish they had for their house. And so they called you because they wanted what you were doing for your clients.
Yeah. And, I'd say, and don't get it mixed up when you see like other realtors and people who are performing at like a really high level. Like I look at guys like I'm a close friend with Ken, and I see what he's done. But the biggest thing that he's done, like the part that everyone misses and the part that you need to remember, I think from like day one, is that the goal, the holy grail is consistency. That is it. Like if you can be consistent and pick a level of cadence that you want to meet, if you look at what Ken's producing now, it is because at the end of the week, he asks himself, what, in order for me to post this many videos and have this many pieces of content, what needs to be true? And it's probably not that he needs the perfect hit or a 10 out of 10 video each and every time. What it means to be is that he has to pick a style of content that fits into his life, his know-how, his budget, and his team. And it was a different answer for him a year ago, just as it's going to be a different answer for me compared to Ken, or from you compared to me, or you compared to Ken, or anyone else. So whatever it is, the only question to ask yourself is like, what am I going to commit to, right? And what is the amount of videos that I can put out? What is the cadence that I need to put out? Because once you have that, and you have the next question of like, who is that audience? From there, as your business grows, you will evolve to have all those other questions answered. Like all of a sudden it'll become obvious, like when you need to bring on a videographer as under contract, or when you grow so much that you get to bring on a videographer, say in-house, right? Or whatever that might be. But it all begins with the idea of like, if I want to get something done and grow consistently, like I need to produce consistently.
And I love that because consistency builds trust. I think consistency builds trust. Even if Claudia's content isn't, the best stuff, when the audience sees her showing up consistently, I say, oh, Claudia has her crap together and she has a steadiness about her and she's trustworthy because she shows up consistently. And so I do love that as a baseline. Like if we can't make the best listing videos, if we're not going to make the best, at least we could be consistent. And I've seen people who make lower quality videos that may be less talented than somebody else's, but show up consistently, do better as a result.
Yeah. Yeah. These days, the only thing that you have to do is show up consistently and then show up as yourself. Those are really the keys.
All right. Any questions before we get final thoughts from our buddy Brad here? Most of the time, Brad, like in somebody's last minute or two, we'll ask for some final thoughts. But I gotta give you a little more leeway.
Sure. Thank you.
Do you think
Any
7 minutes? Do you think 7 minutes is enough for him?
I think
To
so.
answer one question?
You know,
Yeah.
Noel, you don't have any questions for Brett?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm a realtor in South Florida and Weston, Florida, which is half an hour from Fort Lauderdale and 45 minutes from Miami. My city, most of my avatars are here, but I also work in other cities and also work to Miami. My question is, if I'm gonna open my YouTube channel, my city is only 70,000 people. So it's too small. I mean, if I say move to Weston, so what are your suggestions?
Sure.
Based on the statement that you say that the market needs to, or the service or the channel has to be hyper focused. I have that confusion. So if I want to see Miami or Fort Lauderdale or Weston, so I'm kind of lost with that.
Before we let Brad give a really long answer, Misha, how many people are in your city?
I got about 70,000.
And how long have you been doing YouTube?
Since 2019.
And how many like deals or millions of dollars?
I just closed one on Friday. So YouTube is literally 90, and I'm not kidding, 90% of my transaction volume comes directly from YouTube.
Mine too.
And that's around, as a single agent, I know in bigger areas it's a little bit different, but it's an average of 32 transactions a year total. So around, what is that? Around 28 transactions come directly yearly from YouTube.
All right, Brad.
Yeah. So I agree that it doesn't matter the size. I would actually argue the way to think is like, what would be a screaming success for you? Would an extra 5 deals a year make it worth it? Would an extra 10 deals a year make it worth it? Like those are the things that you would say. So in my opinion, it's actually easier to stand out in a smaller audience, right? Like think about yourself, the reverse, right? I'm in New York City, right? That's a really large appreciable audience. Now then, how on earth do I stand out in New York City, right? The famous line is like, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right? Well, the cool thing is in an audience of 70,000 inside your town, first off, there's tons of people that are just searching South Florida, right? And there's so many people that are looking at areas that are almost considered suburbs of Miami or just north of Miami. So for you, you're already going to have a little bit larger audience in that. But the cool thing is that there's just going to be less competition there. And the wild thing about me is that even though there's tons of competition in my market, and I'm in a city of 1.5 million people, it's not the same competition as it was 2 years ago because so many of those people just dropped off. They came on for a little while, they did some stuff, they dropped off, they left, right? And the amount of people that are like, you're still doing videos, it's wild, right? People still think that it's wild that I'm just still doing the same thing like 6-7 years later. So the opportunity for you is just to be that person that keeps serving that 70. Like if you look at Misha's been doing it for 6 years now. And the funny thing is that the longer you do it, even in a smaller market or any market, is you actually create a barrier of entry for other agents. Because the more that they see you posting and continually uploading, the more those people are going to be like, I don't even know if there's room for me, right? So I would find that little spot for you inside that market. There's definitely 5, 10, probably 20 deals to be had a year from YouTube from it. It's just you have to be able to commit long enough to start seeing those start to come in.
Thank you very much.
Well, Brad, you got 2 minutes now. Final thoughts?
I'm glad to be on here. And I guess my final thoughts are everyone that shows up on these calls, like tell a friend to come on, share it with someone else that you know, another agent at Real, just another agent in general, because there's, I think, really good stuff that happens. Like Chris, who's coming on next week, is brilliant. And he's got such a great eye for content and such a unique style. He's always doing something a little bit different. It's going to be an awesome episode. And if we could have 100 participants instead of just 50, I think that would be amazing, right? Because I think so many agents need to build personal brands. I was having this chat with Ken last week, and that was one of the things that he was talking to me about the industry. He said, if I could do one thing different, I would like agents to understand that they don't need Zillow. I love agents to understand how easy it is to build a personal brand for themselves and some notoriety for themselves that gets them independent from all these other lead sources where they otherwise are doomed to spend their whole career paying for the privilege of someone else setting up that connection. So I'm all about it. My buddy Jason Mesnick, season 11 Bachelor, I guess you can call him a winner because he did work out, him and his wife. But Jason Mesnick has like hundreds of thousands of followers. And at RealX, he said that he would trade all of that for 1,000 followers that really knew him, wanted to support him in his business, and would refer him on to friends. So he would trade all of that virality, all of that fame, all of those large audiences for a small group of people. So if you can add 10 true fans or followers in the next 2 weeks, and you keep compounding that, it doesn't take long to get to a point where you have an audience of 200 or 300 people that will support you in your business and that will go tell their friends about it. So if you like these calls, tell other people, get other people on them so other people can benefit as well. There's just so much business for us all to have.
Yeah, we'll keep doing our best to make sure they're valuable every single week. So thanks, Brad. Hey, if you got anything great from Brad in the last hour, or I should say 57 minutes since you got here at 103.
Get off before you tell the audience.
Drop a 1 in the chat or 1,000. Drop 1,000 in the chat if you got something good from Brad today. We appreciate you hopping on. REVB Facebook group is where we're continuing a lot of the conversation. We've got the podcast. Make sure you check out the podcast. And we've got Chris Benjamin coming on next week's call. So lots of fun. Katie, did I miss anything?
You did not miss anything, Tim. Good job.
That's right. I got
Yay,
I on
Tim.
my test today. I'm putting a star on a piece of paper and putting it on the fridge.
I'll mail you a gold star.
Yes. All right, y'all. Thanks for being on. We'll see you guys next week.